Welcome to Nerds Amalgamated, a podcast that covers the latest events in science, pop culture, and gaming.
I'm the professor, aspiring game developer, sci-fi aficionado, and completely and undeniably a geek trying to take over the world. I'll be breaking down the news from tech to gaming.
I am the DJ, a humble nerd, a big weeb,
and a watcher from the halls of the multiverse.
Just kidding. Anyways, I'll be breaking down all things comics to movies to anime.
Join us and stay hydrated as we quench you with witty banter, unintentionally hilarious hot takes, and trivia more fun than a night at the pub, courtesy of Nerds Amalgamated. Welcome back to Nerds Amalgamated. This week we're talking about the chaos at Build a Rocket Boy, the developers behind Mind's Eye, how sitting near the window makes you smarter, and the Sag-Aftra deal.
Whoopee.
Why you sound so disappointed?
Well, I know. Looking at the details of Sag-Aftra, the new details, I'm just kind of being disappointed by it. But I'll reveal more about the deal later.
You bloody better. So I have here an interview with Chris Wilson, an ex-lead animator from Build a Rocket, which is the most confusing game developer name I've heard because it sounds like a game title.
Yeah, exactly.
And he has a pedigree. He's worked on Shadow of Chernobyl, Batman Arkham Knight, Hitman Absolution, and the most recent one being Build a Rocket Boy's Mind's Eye.
Oh, damn.
Yes. Still doing better than Concord.
Really? Wow.
Well, it hasn't been completely pulled from the marquee.
That for a game like that to last longer than Concord, that says a lot. That's a lot of promise.
Well, maybe not, because since the release of Mind's Eye, Build a Rocket Boy has had 2 rounds of redundancies, a leak saying that enhanced cybersecurity software was installed on employees' workstations without their knowledge, and the Independent Workers' Union of Great Britain filing a collective grievance about unlawful blacklisting and claims that the studio was recording individuals in their homes without their consent.
Wow.
Yeah, so the quote from Wilson talking about why he decided to come forward, because most people involved have stayed silent, is because of the Terramind monitoring. And if you don't know, Terramind is a cybersecurity product which lets you record what goes on the screen and on the webcam. And if you're installing something like that, you really got to tell your staff, because it's not right to be able to open a window into someone's home and record what they're doing in their private home just because they have a work device there.
Man, yeah, I'm looking at the website. My God, like search screenshot, track activity, prevent data loss.
Yeah, all things that companies need to consider. But looking into employees' homes is not something that companies should be doing. Anyway, Build a Rocket Boy has a pedigree of its own. It was founded by Leslie Benzies, who you might recognize from Rockstar North, which created Grand Theft Auto. And since the release, he's been on a leave of absence because his name appeared in some of the Epstein files.
Okay, his name. Okay, even if his name is on the Epstein files, has he done anything wrong?
Well, no. Being in the files isn't proof that you've done something wrong. It's proof that there's something to investigate, pretty much.
Yes.
But he's come back from that leave of absence now.
Finally. By the way, Professor, you were saying there was a quote from Wilson about the why he's stepping out. He said it was a Terramind. Is there anything else he said?
He said a lot of things. We're going to get to that.
Okay, fair enough.
So, the co-CEO Mark Gerhard, maybe, threatened the YouTuber Cyberboy, BOI, with legal action via cease and desist posted in the Mind's Eye Discord server for publishing a YouTube video revealing Benzies' presence in the Epstein files. Which, I'm not sure you can put a cease and desist in a public forum like that. I don't know, I'm not a lawyer. But that feels dodgy. But Gerhard has also said that people inside and outside the studio were trying to sabotage it, and that he has involved the police.
How the heck are you gonna prove it though? Like, the sabotage? Like, are you gonna go through? Are you gonna use Terramind to sift through countless amounts of data?
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, that's time consuming.
It would be. But this gets even weirder because Mark Gerhard
Mhm.
has announced that, well, it should have been released by now, at the end of April. The game would be getting a new mission titled Blacklisted and would include the evidence of sabotage. So he's blaming Cyberboy and Ritual Network, whoever they are, for sabotaging the company. And I'll admit I didn't look up who Ritual Network are, just missed their name when I skimmed the article earlier. That's my bad. I should have been prepared. But if we were 100% prepared, there wouldn't be a show to run. Anyway, so Blacklisted wasn't supposed to be a piece of evidence of sabotage. It was supposed to be a crossover mission featuring Agent 47 from Hitman. So I'm guessing the cancellation of the Hitman mission is part of the sabotage that Mark Gerhard is blaming on Cyberboy and Ritual Network. And Wilson refutes that and says that the only thing they've done to change the mission is replace Hitman, Agent 47 with the Mind's Eye character.
Oh my god, this game.
Yeah, and Benzies held a meeting to really reveal the proof of sabotage in early 2026, where he read hate comments from his personal email for 10 minutes.
Okay, for do you have a copy of that of what he said, or is it or
No,
so?
but Wilson says it sounds like League of Legends chats. So I don't think I want to know what's in those chats,
Oh no.
those emails, because it sounds pretty toxic.
Oh.
But you shouldn't be able to get the co-CEO of a game developer without knowing how toxic people can be and having a system in place to not expose yourself to that toxicity. I'm not saying we should excuse toxicity because it's bad for everyone, but it's part of being a creative, I think. Someone somewhere is going to hate what you do and be toxic about it.
So on the Terramind, so what exactly did Terramind capture? Were employees' home recordings ever actually used against them?
It doesn't actually say whether the Terramind was used to look into people's homes, but that the whole problem is that they didn't tell people they were bringing in Terramind. They installed it and then had access to do this. Whether they used it or not doesn't matter. They shouldn't have been installing software that can look into people's homes without consent from the employees. And going by how unhinged this whole thing has been, I don't think I would trust the co-CEOs to not be using it to look into people's homes, because it's like Mark Gerhard just sounds off his rocker.
Okay, okay. But here's the thing, though. Like, if the so-called sabotage evidence that Gerhard and Benzies were talking about was just hate mail from that reads like League of Legends chat, how does anyone in that meet keep a straight face?
Uh, Tragically, they were sitting there thinking, poor baby, I'm going to lose my house because you're making me redundant.
Oh, man.
That's a paraphrase quote from Wilson.
Apparently, there were other issues as well, aside from the hate mail and the unwarranted surveillance. Like I've seen some crunch culture as well, with no overtime pay, and learning about the firings from LinkedIn stuff as well.
Yeah, Crunch is. I don't know how we're not past Crunch by. I can't really understand how we're still relitigating Crunch. Everybody hates it except for the employers, but it's also like literally been proven that excessive work hours are bad for productivity. And I think most people understand, take a delay if you are going to end up needing to crunch, because a delayed game can eventually be good. If you rush it out and crunch to finish it, it's more likely to be buggy because your efficiency and productivity go down the more hours you work in a week. because eventually you just get tired and you can't through. And this has been studied, so I'm not just pulling this out of my backside.
That's true. With did has have both Benzies or Gerhard ever respond to the crunch allegations, or has it just been swept under the rug?
No, Gerhard and Benzies don't seem to have spoken about the crunch.
This also makes me wonder, though, with this entire debacle, who's actually in control of anything now? Is Leslie, but is Leslie in control of anything? Like, or is he just the guy who threw barbecues and signed the checks in this entire company?
Yeah, I don't know. So Leslie Benzies was associated with Crunch when he worked at Rockstar.
Yeah,
So it wouldn't surprise me if he was the one pushing for Crunch. But at the same time, I don't know enough about their corporate structure to say whether Benzies or Gerhard are really the source of the toxicity. I'm gonna go out on a limb and say probably Gerhard, because he's the
Gerhard's
one who's been going on about the sabotage and throwing around random accusations.
Yeah, so if talented developers like Wilson are being burned out and are leaving the industry, how does that affect the quality of games we'll play in the next 5 years, given what we've seen right now?
Well, it's kind of worrying because a lot of these people who worked at Builder Rocker Boy are saying that they are having trouble finding work because they go out and they apply, and when the interviewer finds out they worked at Builder Rocker Boy, it taints them.
Oh yeah, it's the same case with whoever worked at Concord as well. Like, can you imagine putting that on your resume?
Yeah, but the difference is you can put down you worked at Sony for 5 years. If
Mm.
you put down you worked at Builder Rocker Boy for 5 years, everyone knows you must have been working on Mind's Eye.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And Concord didn't have nearly the level of craziness going on behind it. So I think it's tragic that this is going to push people out of the industry, especially at a time when it's increasingly difficult to find a job in the industry because of the industry's going through a bit of a contraction in the last couple of years.
Yeah. Okay. Given all that though, should players feel guilty buying or playing Mind's Eye knowing the conditions it was made under?
I think that's a decision players have to make themselves. Like, I personally am boycotting Ubisoft because of their toxic work culture, so I won't be buying Mind's Eye because they are equally, if not more, toxic. And it's hard because I don't want to see these developers, whoever's still left at Builder Rocket Boy after this, I don't want to see them put out of work because people aren't buying the game. But I also don't want to reward
The toxic company.
yeah, I don't want to reward the toxic culture. So I think it's a decision each person has to make themselves.
And let's say if no one buys this game and Build a Rocket does collapse, could this collapse affect other games like your Hitman crossover, for example?
No, the Hitman crossover is done and dusted. It's not happening.
Okay.
I don't think the collapse will affect other games, and I don't think there's going to be too many people still working at Builder Rocket Boy who are going to be affected because there's just been so many layoffs.
Yeah.
Like, even last week, they fired more than half of the remaining staff.
Dude, that's strong.
So yeah, this is why you need good PR.
If studio, so I get that but even if it's a good PR, the game is still broken as fuck though. And if studios know that players will still buy the broken games at launch, would they ever? Why would they ever change how they operate?
That's why we've got to do some introspection as consumers and not buy games at launch. They're going to be broken messes. I understand hype, I understand anticipation, but pre-ordering and purchasing a game at launch make less and less sense as we move into the world of digital distribution.
So the gaming community should be partly responsible for this, in a manner of speaking, because they were the ones that were hyping Mind's Eye despite obvious red flags.
Well, no, it's the ones who buy the game and
Hmm.
don't refund it.
Ah, okay.
I mean, if 100,000 people bought the game on release day and played it long enough to find out it's a mess and then refunded it, the developer wouldn't make any money and they'd have to do better if they survived. And you can thank the Australian government for being able to refund games you buy on Steam.
Oh yeah.
Aussie, Aussie, Aussie!
Oi, oi, oi! Given the behavior we've been seeing in both of the EOs, like the Discord rants and the announcements through LinkedIn, is there a point where a CEO's public behavior becomes grounds for the board to remove him?
I think so. I mean, why can CEOs get away with doing anything, and no matter how bad the PR is? I can't understand how Elon is still attached to anything after giving a Nazi salute.
It just comes down to the money factor, like they bring in the money kind of thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of boards are more concerned about profitability than they are about ethics and morals.
Although that said, though, Benzies has built his reputation on GTA, which has brought in a lot of money. Let's stop mince words here. It's brought in a lot of money.
Yeah, GTA 5 is one of the best selling games ever.
Yeah.
Probably helped by the triple dipping by releasing it on last gen, then next gen, then PC. I'm kind of surprised they didn't release it. Well, no, wait, they did. They did a remastered GTA 5 Enhanced.
Oh yeah. Yeah, GTA. Yep. 2013. That was fun.
Anyway,
That?
on to our other window.
Yeah.
I want to talk about why having a window view is better for. So this paper finds an 8.9% of a standard deviation increase in exam scores when Chinese college entrance exam takers are seated near a window. Which is, that's nothing to sniff at.
And from what I remember, Chinese college entrance exams are tough. They
They
are
are.
very.
So, yes, apparently the Chinese college entrance exams are taken by 30 students in a 5 by 6 grid, randomly assigned to rooms and seats. So 30 students per room. So the paper has quite a large sample size. They used data from over 3,700 students, and they tested to make sure that statistics were unaffected by gender, ethnicity, age, and urban and rural status. But it's not just a window. You don't just need natural light. It has to be a window with a view of the outside. So those high windows that let the light in but not let you see outside that you see in
Yeah.
some buildings, no good.
Oh damn.
So yeah, it's based. Their study is based on the attention restoration theory, which is a theory that suggests individuals can concentrate better after spending time in nature or gazing out. And that makes me wonder if windows could be an effective treatment for people with ADHD. Or do they just stare out the window and get distracted?
Yeah. I mean, although it also makes me wonder: does this type of outdoor view matter? Like, does looking at trees perform better than looking at a parking lot or a urban streetscape?
That would be an interesting extension to this study. Because yes, I don't see. It's logged me out of my account, so I've just got to log back in. Yes, I'm not seeing any evidence in this study as to whether the exact type of view is an important factor,
Hmm.
but I imagine it would. And it's got me wondering if in the future we might have more productive companies and students by just still signing me in there. We might have more productive students, and I forgot my password. What? I'm doing well. It's fine. I'm imagining that having a view of a tree is going to be better than a view of a car park. So I wonder if you could have more productive companies and schools, and by having the building designed around courtyards to increase the view of nature for each potential employee.
Sure, but then nature can also be chaotic. Like if the view outside is chaotic, like roadworks, a busy interaction section, people arguing, or two birds fighting on a tree, for example, does that hurt performance worse than no window at all?
Well, that would have to be a factor,
Hmm.
but Yeah, this finds such a it's nearly 10% of a standard deviation improvement from having a window view.
Yeah.
So I imagine based on that, that's that's quite an intense swing. So I imagine that you're not going to see much detraction from having activity going on outside the compared to not having a window.
This whole thing reminds me of that meme with in anime where the protagonist's favorite seat would be somewhere by the window.
Didn't know that was an anime thing.
Yeah, it is, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm gonna find sitting by the window. There we go. Anime character sitting by the window. Even Reddit's written one. Why do
Right.
anime?
Weebs are weird.
Yeah, so actually no, Reddit. So he's go. What's the deal with anime main characters sitting by the window? There are several practical reasons for anime characters to be sitting by these places that do not apply to live action. For instance, sitting your protagonist in the back row means that the scene is facing them. There's much less background characters to animate them. Cuts down the effort. Oh, as for the window seat, here you go. It allows characters to look out the window and therefore show those outside see the audience as well. Gives animators more options to add some visual interest to those scenes. Although the specific concern is the same for live action, where another important variable when it comes to windows, and that's light.
Yeah, I imagine. And where are you getting this from?
This is from a blog called Drunken Anime Blog.
Okay.
Yeah.
I imagine that for anime at least, you can choose the time of day and all of that
Hmm.
when you animate. But when you're filming, it could really mess up your continuity if you have to go and do reshoots at a different time of day.
Yeah. What's going to be interesting with this sort of study, though, is for remote workers who optimized everything like standing desks, blue light glasses, productivity apps, and they've ignored their window situation entirely. Like, how much cognitive performance have they been silently leaving on the table?
10% of a standard deviation.
Hey,
Yes, I feel like working from home makes you more likely to have a window view than working in office, just based on my experiences working in offices.
also,
Because working from home, like my home office,
yeah.
has a window. Like I can almost reach out and touch the window. It's a bit of a stretch, but the last job I had, we hot desked, which was awful. Great job, awful hot desking. We hot desked for a while, and then so some days we'd be sitting near the window, and some days in the middle of the building where there was still natural light from rooftop like skylights, but didn't have a direct view. And then we moved to an office that did not have windows. It had windows, but most of us were away from the windows. So yeah, I think I have a much bigger and better view from my home office than I have at any office I've worked at in the last 10 years.
Okay.
Because just before that, I worked in an office where I had a really nice view. But yes,
That
it's
that
something to think about for
hmm.
designing your home office.
That's true. That said, though, like, could you, let's say, if you have no windows, could you theoretically use a high resolution nature screensaver or a fake window with nature footage and get the same effect? Or does your brain know it's being tricked?
Now you're getting fun. I don't know. We need to do that study. I haven't seen that study done any.
Oh,
And it reminds me of the nuclear bunkers from there's a particular nuclear bunker in the US that was built back in the 70s or 80s, I think. And it's been resold. So there are photos of it online from the real estate agents. And they have a room where the whole wall is painted like a distant view. So yeah, it makes me wonder if that have an impact at all.
yeah. Oh, but then if this effect is real and replicable, why haven't exam boards and regulators done anything about seating fairness? Like, is this a case of science being ignored for religious conveniences, or?
Well, it's pretty new science. Like this is a new study. So I'm sure it's building on older studies, but the older studies, yes, it is also the logistical convenience because building a building that maximizes window views is more difficult. And these studies haven't gotten widespread recognition to encourage people to build differently.
Yeah.
Although I do wonder, like Apple's UFO, if they intended that to have some similar effect.
As in the UFO Disclosure Project, or?
No, Apple has a headquarters that people called the UFO because it's a big circle with a park in.
Oh yeah, the Apple Park. Yeah. Wow, God. Yeah. Also, could you see? Could someone theoretically game this? Like, if you knew the seating randomization process, could you manipulate your child's seating arrangement?
I doubt it because it's been verified as random.
Hmm.
But it does raise the question whether these exams should take that into account and give you a boost or, a handicap if you are seated away from them.
That's
Because if they're
interesting.
tracking this data, they could do that.
That's interesting, though, that this study is using Chinese college exams. Do you think the effect size would be replicated in the West, for example, or is there a cultural barrier?
I don't see
Uh,
why it would be a cultural.
because the stress environment between both because like Asian study structures are high stress.
Yeah.
If
And
you
I
look
don't
at
see why that has anything to do with exams being easier in the West. Like, exams are still stressful even if you're not being pushed so hard to succeed, like in some Asian countries. So I don't think it would make a meaningful difference.
Okay, that's true. Well, I agree. That'll be a fun. That would be that'll be interesting how this study goes forward. Although with that story with that question about the fake screensaver, I was wondering though, would you call that a placebo effect in a manner of speaking as well?
I guess so. I don't know. Is because it's not a placebo to take a medicine that has the same effect as the other medicine that you're trying to imitate.
Hmm.
So I wouldn't say it's a placebo to have a TV showing a nature scene if it had the same effect as having a window. What
Hmm.
would be a placebo would be if there was some way to have something that is entirely unlike a nature scene that had the same effects as a nature scene.
Okay.
And
Okay.
you'd have to specifically be told this is a nature scene. Because
Hmm.
part of the placebo effect is that you're not taking medicine, but you're being told it is medicine.
Okay, that's true.
So why don't you tell us about the Sag-Aftra Award?
Oh yeah. So the Sag-Aftra has reached a tentative 4-year deal with the major studios, with negotiators managed to avoid a repeat of the 20 strike. So the Sag-Aftra has joined the WGA, which is the Writers Guild of America, if I remember correctly. In signing a full 4-year contract with the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers, longer than the usual 3-year term. Labor sources says SAG-AFTRA receive a sizable contribution pension fund from the AMPTP, mirroring the WGA's deal, which includes a multi-million-dollar contribution to its healthcare plan. There is a AI guardrail, AI guardrail, I repeat, which put measures that are also part of the league negotiator Duncan Crabtree Ireland. Yep, that is a name. Has reported being holding out on approving the extended deal until the studios expand the provisional AI guardrails established after the strike. The negotiations began on February, recessed in March to allow the WGA's earlier negotiations to conclude, then resumed April 27th and wrapped in May 2nd. And this contract covers workers involved in motion pictures, scripted primetime, dramatic television, streaming content, and new media. The Directors Guild of America have remained the only major Hollywood guild yet to reach a deal with the studios. And some of them, and from the comments I've been seeing in regards to the article, some are saying it's a good deal. The industry can't take another strike, and some are saying that the pension contributions are sizable. So, what do you reckon, Professor, about this new deal?
I reckon it's a good thing that the actors are getting the rights to their likenesses and preventing AI from replacing. I'm not saying all tasks should be done by humans, because that's frankly ridiculous. Just
Hmm.
because a task can be done by a human doesn't mean it should be done by. But there are a lot of tasks, particularly in the creative industries, where people are trying to replace the humans with AI and automation, and it's going to put a lot of people out of work. And I don't think society is ready to have a lot of people out of work.
Yeah, I'm more interested to see what the guardrails they've put that were put in place in part of the agreement. What the new guardrails are going to be, and how they will. And the interesting part's going to be how much money is the sizable pension contribution, and is it enough to actually fix the funding problem?
Well, a pension contribution is basically effectively a higher pay raise. So, what's the funding problem you're talking about?
They're saying here it says the funds problem, so I'm wondering what's the fund problems. But I'll have let me check it out. Yeah, the so based on the so they said here the based on the 2025 and 20 reports, the main issues facing the SAG-AFTRA pension and health funds include investment controversies, financial pressures from a contracting industry, and historical disputes over royalty payments. So there've been a couple of incidences basically, such as like fossil fuel investments, industry downturn, and financial funding pressures, unclaimed foreign royalties, streaming raid shifts, those kinds of funding. I think that's what they're
Okay.
talking about. I'm also wondering, could we ever see a world where on a digital actor trained on a real performer's likeness replaced them entirely? And what would that mean legally with this sort of deal?
Well, we're already seeing that with that Val Kilmer movie.
Hmm.
He's long dead, and they've replaced him entirely with an AI model.
Yeah, I think I saw something about that, and people were putting this saying how it was creepy and it was it was terrifying.
Yeah, I think that's a bad thing because it means you're not going to get new talent rising up.
Even the name of the title which Kilmer was in also was creepy as well, as deep as the grave. But it's interesting also that how studios have agreed to these AI guardrails very quickly. What is that? What do they know about the technology's current limitations that the unions don't?
Yeah, that's a bit worrying.
And also, how these guardrails are going to be enforced, and what happens when a studio breaches them? Are they going to go like, "Oh no, what are we gonna? You used AI. What are they gonna do?" Like, it feels like an empty threat.
I feel like the appropriate response would be for all the actors in Sag-Aftra
Hmm,
to boycott companies that use AI that way.
yeah.
Anyway, I think we should move on to our shoutouts.
Yep.
On the 6th of May 1949, we saw the creation of EDSAC, the first practical electronic digital stored program computer, running its first operation. So, EDSAC was an electronic delay storage automatic calculator. Based on John von Neumann's first draft of a report on the EDVAC, the machine was constructed by Maurice Wilkes and a team from the University of Cambridge Mathematical Laboratory. It was the second electronic digital stored program computer after the Manchester Mark I to go into regular service. It took 2 years to build, and its first programs were to calculate a table of square numbers and a list of prime numbers.
That must have been a lot. That must have been a lot of equations.
Yeah, and we can do that all so much faster now. So users would punch tape in assembly language. No, that can't be right. So the notes here say that users prepared their programs by punching them in assembler onto a paper tape.
Yep.
But paper tape is usually I think it's usually in hexadecimal. I don't know, I've never actually used it myself. So you'd need to convert it twice to get to, well, yeah, convert it to assembler and then understand the assembler, write the program. The users would hold the tape up to the light and read back the code. When the program was ready, they would hang it on a length of line strung up near the tape reader. The machine operators would grab a tape and feed it into EDSAC, and then the tape and printout were returned to the user.
That sounds very laborious.
I imagine it was. There was also a display, a cathode ray tube screen, to show the contents of a particular piece of memory, and a loudspeaker attached to the accumulator's sign bit, so users could tell the sound of their program and if the program had gotten stuck in a loop.
Your program is very unhealthy. Go back and fix it.
Yeah, and you'd only get one run a day, so, like, I could not handle that. I'm not that good at programming.
And it's like the coding has to be right.
Yeah, those old tape punching programmers were basically nerds.
Uh-huh. Like, get it right on the first go. If you don't get it right, you're screwed.
Yep. At night, certain users were allowed to run the machine for themselves, which went on late into the night until a valve blew, which usually happened, according to users. The valve being a vacuum tube valve, which were all the rage back then. Basically, have to be. They look a bit like light bulbs, and you'd have to pull one out and replace it with another. And on the 8th of May 2026, we had Sir David Attenborough's 100th birthday. He hoped to celebrate his birthday quietly, but it will be marked with a live event at the Royal Albert Hall.
You see, even there was even a video by Prince Charles writing a letter to David Attenborough saying happy birthday, and in a quirky fashion, he sent animal couriers to David Attenborough.
I missed that. I knew the Royals would send you a postcard for your 100th birthday, but I didn't know they used animals
Oh
for
yeah,
David Attenborough.
yeah, it's on BBC Earth as well on their YouTube channel. So the links will be on the show notes.
Okay. The Natural History Museum has named the parasitic wasp after Attenborough. And the Australian Museum will pay tribute to its patron by offering free entry to the exhibition Bloodsuckers Nature's Vampires. And Sir Ian McKellen said that Sir David Attenborough summed up the best about the BBC. You're wrong, that's Doctor Who, but okay.
Oh, don't start a war between those two franchises.
No, there's no need for a war between Doctor Who and David Attenborough.
Can you imagine though? He is 100 years. He is 100 years old now. I wonder how. I wonder in his lifetime did he ever realize that his voice was going to be made fun of for all this time?
Eventually, it would have been clear. So, Sir David spent his childhood collecting fossil stones and natural specimens, and he grew up in College House on the campus of the University College in Leicester. Around 11 years old, he heard the zoology department needed a supply of newts, which he offered to his father to supply for 3 shillings each. He collected the newts from a pond adjacent to the department.
Damn, he made a lot of money that day.
Yes, and while in 2011, while excavating for an extension on his home, workers found the skull of a murdered man from 1879. Sorry, a murdered woman. The woman was murdered by her housekeeper and decapitated, and the body was fed to nearby children. That is a dark bit of history for such a light-hearted moment. He also worked as the head of the BBC Two, introduced British audiences to colour TV, and gave the go-ahead to Monty Python's Flying Circus. So, DJ, what is our messed up moment this week?
On a messed up moment for this week. Have you ever heard of the anime Overlord?
I know the name, I've forgotten what it's about.
It's basically a player is trapped in a video game, and he is the
So, every anime.
oh, not every anime. That's a bit of an exaggeration. He is like the most overpowered character, and in one scene, basically, actually, I should also say, the character he's playing is the most powerful leader in the Great Tomb of Nazarick, and then in one of the episodes, there was a skirmish between the Empire and the Kingdom, and this character was able to give everyone a sample of his immense power. He used a level 90 spell to kill 70,000 of the enemy's army in seconds. And not only did he just insta kill the enemies, but the deaths were used to fuel for his next spell, which he calls the Dark Young. and that requires 14,000 sacrifices per entity, making their power levels equal to the main characters. And after summoning that, the Dark Young killed another 100,000 enemies by trampling them or throwing them high in the air. But yeah, that's can you imagine doing that in the real world?
I mean, at some point it stops being murder and becomes statistics.
Uh-huh. Oh, by the way, the character in this, the spell and the characters they use, they're all inspired by H.P. Lovecraft as well. So yeah, I'll post the scene in the show notes to check out. But yeah, that like I said, 70,000 people killed as sacrifices just to create a monster. And at the end of that entire thing, the main character just asked everyone who was witnessing the entire thing, please clap. That was
Right.
it. Yeah, yep,
So he's just killed nearly 200,000 people.
yep.
And he's just like, clap.
Clap, everybody, clap.
Well, you'd better start bloody clapping. Do what he
Uh-huh.
says.
Yep.
And
And
on the topic of our messed up moments, last week I
uh-huh.
spoke about Vladimir Komarov.
Yeah.
I swear I didn't steal the idea from Scott Manley, who
Oh
happened to
no.
publish a video of it a couple of days before we did our recording.
Oh no. What the hell?
I know, how was that timing worked out? But yeah, after we did the recording, I was having a look at Scott Manley's YouTube channel and I just see one on Vladimir Komarov, and I'm like, what?
Now I need to watch it now just to see.
Yep. Well, on to our wacky movie. On the 6th of May 1964, The Last Man on Earth premiered in the US. This was a Vincent Price movie based on the horror novel I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. It's I Am Legend is sort of the original vampire apocalypse story.
You've read the book.
I have. It's a good book.
Have you seen the Will Smith version of that movie of I'm Legend, or
I haven't, but by all accounts it's terrible.
really that bad, huh? Yeah, I've heard also the interesting with I Am Legend. There are two endings to that movie as well.
Yeah, one that's book accurate and one that isn't.
Yep, and there's word going around. There's a sequel to that too. There's a sequel
Oh,
with Will Smith and and Michael B. Jordan as well.
I don't know where you would go from that. Like, from the book accurate ending, anyway. I might need to watch the movie to find out what the ending is. So, this was a Hara horror film, not a Homer Hara. But British censors wouldn't allow the film to be produced, so the script was resold to Robert L. Lippert. Originally, Lippert planned for Fritz Lang, who you might remember from Metropolis, to direct the film. When Matheson the author of the book, found out that Fritz Lang was being replaced by Sidney Salkow, he said, "Well, there's a bit of a drop."
Yeah, that would suck.
Yes, the film was shot in Italy in black and white to save money, featuring only Vincent Price and child actress Christy Courtland as the only American in the cast. The Italians would recite their English dialogue phonetically and be overdubbed by English-speaking voice actors. Matheson said the film was the most faithful adaptation of his book, but he also called the result inept and used a pen name for the screenplay. He thought Harrison Ford as the star and George Miller as director would have been the ideal creative combination.
That would have been awesome too.
Yeah,
Mad Max and Blade Runner, the star of Blade Runner with Mad Max creator. That would be awesome.
now I'm trying to think of any Harrison Ford movies that are completely against type, because I want to make the joke that it's Harrison Ford and the guy who created Happy Feet.
Oh, I could say Air Force One, but
Yeah, that's still an action movie.
yeah,
It's like George Miller went from Mad Max to Happy Feet.
yeah, that was weird.
And didn't he also do Babe? The one about the pig?
I hope not. No, that was Chris Noonan.
Okay,
But but George Miller did the screenplay for it.
there we go. So it was an inspiration for Romero's Night of the Living Dead. And Vincent Price insisted on lifting real people into his car instead of dummies during the scenes where he moves corpses.
That must be a lot of people to lift a car up like that.
No, they were moving bodies.
Oh, right.
So he's in the original book, and presumably this movie, the main character is a vampire hunter who is one of the one, if not the only survivor of the vampire apocalypse. And he goes around during the day murdering vampires and moving their bodies away. At night, he goes home and builds a fortress to keep the vampires out. And the film has also come out into the public domain because of a clerical error.
Yeah, apparently you can watch the whole thing on Wikipedia.
Yep, and Charlton Heston. So Vincent Price thinks this is better than the Amiga Man. Charlton Heston, who was in the Amiga Man, thinks that The Last Man on Earth is incredibly botched, totally unfrightening, ill acted, sloppily written, and photographed. And I think with that, we're going to have to wrap it up.
Yep, yep.
So look after yourself, stay hydrated, and we'll see you next time.
Check us out on Spotify and on all social medias. We also do gameplays on Twitch. Stay happy, stay nerdy. See you guys.